I hate army painting. The thought of painting the same miniature over 50 times makes me wanna play Pokemon cards again instead. You see, I would much rather focus on a single display piece like this one. But I already started this shit show, so might as well finish. So welcome to I Hate Army Painting, the series where I find the best methods to paint my Warhammer army. And today I am using a method that's so good that you'll literally shit yourself. I'll tell you about it in a second, but now we gotta do the most boring part, which is assembly. But you know what? I can just outsource it.
Wakey, wakey! It's time for assembly!
This shit. I'm out. Dear Zumekito, f you. I'm out.
How did he get out?
The miniatures are ready. Let's do this. And as I prepare the miniatures for painting, I can reveal what this method is. You see, it's all about using your airbrush to maximum capacity, and that way you speed up everything. It's not the only tool in the arsenal though. This method is very much associated with El Miniaturista, so shout out, and it is called the method. Yeah. But to compensate for the lack of creativity in the name, it's very efficient. So after priming them outside with a black primer, I was ready for airbrushing. If you are wondering, using a black rattle can is still useful, because it's more durable than any airbrush primer. However, whenever I work on display pieces, I use airbrush primer anyway, because it's less likely to clog any details. Either way, now I gotta use my airbrush regardless. If you have seen the second part of our army painting series, then you already know it's much more precise than a spray can. I guess at this point you could use a rattle can for zenithal priming, but doing it like this is way better, which was confirmed in the second army painting video. By airbrushing the light from above, you can be much more selective and apply multiple passes wherever you want. So that's what I do, and for example, I pay special attention to helmets. At most, this took me a few minutes per miniature, and that means I can quickly move on to the next step, which is varnishing. And you'll understand a bit later why it's so important. For this, I am using a mask. Maybe it's not needed, and I don't even use it whenever I paint a single model, but since I'm spraying a high volume of varnish, better be safe than sorry. Hey, quick question. Do you hate army painting too? Would you rather paint a single display piece and really take your time with it? And do you want to level up your painting? If that sounds like you, I've started a free newsletter for painters just like us. I share practical tips as well as deep dives on topics which aren't always covered in the videos. So if you're interested in display painting and you want to level up, check the link in the description. After varnishing these guys, we'll use something that I've been avoiding in this series. A tool that is as convenient as it is dangerous. Oil wash. So let's prepare it first, and then I'll tell you why it's a double-edged sword. Whenever I am not using acrylics, these little mixing wells come in handy. Creating an oil wash is as easy as combining an odorless white spirit and mixing it with oil paint. I would recommend using something really dark, since we are using it for recess shading. Dark brown or even pure black are perfect. You gotta mix the oil paint with the white spirit to your desired consistency. It's actually fine to make it extra thick, because you can remove the excess later. So there is no exact ratio which you should use. It's also why I keep another mixing well on the side with pure white spirit, just in case I need more dilution. Either way, now you'll see why gloss varnish is so useful. To put it simply, whenever you touch the miniature with your brush, you shade the recesses very fast. That glossy surface makes it easier for the wash to flow there. However, even oil washes by themselves are great at this capillary action. Surely more than acrylic washes. So by combining gloss varnish and oil washes, defining your models is fast and easy. Another beautiful thing about oils is that even if you spill it over the entire miniature, it's not a problem to remove it later with minimum staining. For that, you can use a brush or a Q-tip soaked in pure white spirit. However, it's important to do it fast. If you leave it on for more than a few hours, congratulations, you done f***ed up. Oh hey, that actually happened to me. Even if you leave it on for an hour or so, maybe you'll have to apply more pressure to remove it, and that's another reason why that varnish is so useful. It protects the miniature from rubbing. So, funnily enough, cleaning the oil wash usually takes me more time than applying it. But man, it's worth it. Now everything is super defined and it's ready for the next step. Just like we did previously, we'll apply contrast paint on top of the light sketch. This time, however, we'll utilize the power of airbrush. Before that, however, let's look at the box art again. As you can see, we want a nice red armor and a white helmet. But there is one small problem with that. How do I spray that red contrast paint without staining the helmet? I mean, the red bits are literally next to it. Well, that's where the secret weapon comes in. Liquid mask. This shit smells like... well, like... like shit. But it's so useful, it's worth it. You simply gotta cover the parts that'll be left white with a thick coat, and once you let it dry for like 20 minutes or so, it's ready. Even in this case, I wouldn't recommend leaving it for too long, because removing it might be tough. And right here you have another reason to use gloss varnish beforehand. Now, unfortunately, it's time for my biggest f***up. You see, contrast paints are great because they have awesome staining power. However, the original line was also designed to go over pure white undercoat. By applying it over that, you also darken the parts where the paint pools. But even here, my miniatures became substantially darker than I wanted. So, lesson learned, if the highlights and shades are already painted, use the most saturated contrast paints, not the ones that make your minis darker. Even though this was a major setback, it'll end up costing me only a few hours extra. But we'll get to that. I also had to remove the liquid mask, which turns out wasn't as easy as I thought. Even these minor scratches around their helmets cost me extra time to fix. And while I was at it, I also blocked in the rest of the colors, aside from metallics. At this point, I really wanted to speed things up, so instead of painting everything on the black parts with my brush, I sprayed some light on top. Since this is army painting, it's also a good idea to think of a way to add something extra, to make it nice on the tabletop. The easiest thing was to add a glow effect on their guns. At first, I covered the flat planes with a white ink, and on top of that, I sprayed the same color in the middle. This creates a softer diffusion and a more concentrated light at the center. This time around, I picked the right contrast paint. I am using Doomfire Magenta, and holy shit, isn't that sexy! A color like this won't darken the light source as much, and instead just makes it pop. This right here is how it was supposed to go for the red armor, if I picked the right paint. Oh well. To make it stand out even more, I sprayed the same white ink again. This time I have to make sure that I don't cover too much. I just wanna make the middle part even more glowy. If you thought I'm gonna spray the same contrast paint over that, think again. This time I'm using Magenta Fluo Paint, and that'll make it very bright and saturated. If you don't have fluo paints already, I highly recommend golden high flow ones, but even other brands can work. Okay, so from this point onwards, it's pretty much the same as painting the fire dragons. Everything is blocked in, we also have that nice glow on the guns, and most importantly, we added more definition with oil wash. So all that's left is painting the details. This can be as time consuming as you want, and obviously the more time you spend here, the better it'll look. Although the lenses are a very small feature, they still deserve a lot of attention. The head in general is one of the focal points, so I am not afraid to spend more time here. To introduce some definition on their weapons, all that's needed are a few edge highlights on the black parts and the glow effect. This step is pretty simple, so let's talk about the armor, where things get more tricky. You see, because I darkened the armor too much, I gotta adjust it manually. Again, this wouldn't have happened if I picked less dark and more saturated paint like ball red, but what can I do at this point? So aside from adding some edge highlights, I also cleaned up the flat planes. Another difference is that on these guys we are using metallics. We haven't used them in this series yet, and that's partly because I prefer to place the reflections myself. I also feel like metallic paints kinda cheapen the effect, but of course it's way more efficient. But if you wanna learn how to paint metallics without any metallic paint, then you should check out this video, because it's all about light placement. Either way, we gotta decimate anything that's been left glossy before painting metallics. Just a few passes of ultra matte varnish will erase anything shiny with ease. If I wanted to apply it after painting metallics, it would kill that metallic sheen, so keep that in mind. For the metallics, I've prepared various types from different brands. For steel, I have my own favorite combo, which is a combination of Vallejo Air steel and a black ink. However, for golds, I still haven't found the holy grail, so I settled for anything that looked alright. The cherry on top that can't be ignored are the gemstones. This is especially true for the two exarchs which have their chest visible. So this is the final result. Honestly, expected it to be faster, but at 10 models and refinement of this caliber, it's alright. The time sink is not too bad though. These took probably just as long as the fire dragons, perhaps a bit longer, but I like them so much more. Just like the last time, now you can see the previous rating on screen. Despite my fuck up with the contrast paint being too dark, I still think this is the best method I've used so far. Yet still, it is army painting, so I had to force myself to keep going. And it's pretty clear I didn't enjoy it as much as painting a single display piece. So currently, let's give it 7 beards out of 10, and We'll see if there are any changes in the future. With additional 2 units of 5 Warp Spiders, we are sitting at almost 30% of the army, so around 600 points. We'll be adding some vehicles and characters, which will hopefully carry me through this hell I've brought upon myself. But you know what? If you also don't like army painting, and you wanna push your miniatures to the next level, then check out this video, because it'll help you with that. And see you there!